Every night, when the moonlight covered the castle, everything became completely quiet. The large door to the room of the 12 princesses was always locked with a heavy lock that no one could break. No one could enter, and for sure, no one could leave. But the next morning, something shocking happened again. Something that confused the whole kingdom. All 12 pairs of shoes belonging to the princesses were worn out, almost destroyed, as if the girls had danced hundreds of dances all night long. Not one time, not 2 times. But every single morning, the shoes were torn, scratched, and rubbed down, as if someone had dragged them across the stone floor for hours. The guards were confused. The royal wizard could not explain anything. People in the kingdom began to whisper and make guesses. Maybe there's a secret tunnel under the castle. Maybe the princesses meet someone at midnight. Or maybe something magical is happening that we cannot see. The king was angry, worried, and tired of the mystery. He wanted to know the truth, no matter what. At last, he made a big announcement, one that shocked every young man inside and outside the kingdom. Whoever can solve the mystery of the worn-out shoes, the king declared, will marry any princess he chooses, and after me, he will become the next king. The news spread everywhere, and many brave young men began dreaming of solving the strange mystery of the 12 dancing princesses. Ever since the king announced the great reward, hundreds of young men came to the palace. Knights in shining armor, rich nobles, and even princes from nearby kingdoms all arrived with confidence. Each one believed he could solve the mystery that seemed so simple. They all thought they would be the hero who uncovered the secret of the princess's worn-out shoes. But then the first night passed, and the second night, and the third. Still, no one succeeded. Every young man swore that he stayed awake all night, guarding the princess's door without closing his eyes even once. Yet each morning, as soon as the sun rose, the 12 pairs of shoes were worn down again, scratched, ripped, and completely ruined, just like before. The king did not understand. The guards did not understand. People all around the kingdom began to believe that something supernatural was happening inside the castle. Rumors grew stronger each day. Some said it was magic. Others said it was a curse. The king became frustrated and angry, but he could not break the promise he had made in front of everyone. Just when all hope seemed lost, a young man arrived at the city gate. He had no horse, no armor, and no noble family behind him. He was just an ordinary boy with a kind face, bright eyes, and a quiet confidence. No one knew that his journey would uncover a secret far stranger than anyone had imagined. He walked up to the guards and said calmly, "Please take me to the king. I want to try." The guards laughed, thinking he was just another foolish boy. But the king, desperate and running out of choices, decided to give him a chance. On his way to the castle, the young man saw an old woman sitting by the side of the road. She had silver hair, a thin and tired body, and deep eyes that seemed to see right into his heart. With a weak voice, she said, "My dear boy, can you give me some food? I am very hungry." Without hesitation, the young man opened his bag and gave her all the food he had. He did not save even a bite for himself. The old woman stared at him for a long moment, as if she had been waiting exactly for him. "You are different from the others who walk this road," she said softly. Then she reached into her old basket and pulled out a cloak. It looked worn and simple, but it felt light as wind and strangely powerful. "Take this," she said. "When you wear this cloak, you will become invisible. Use it at midnight, and quietly enter the princess's room. You will see things no one else has seen. But remember this. Do not drink anything the princesses give you, not even one sip." The young man was amazed and thankful. He bowed deeply to the old woman and held the cloak carefully in his hands. For the first time, he felt a new spark of hope rising inside him. His adventure was only beginning. That night, the young man officially began his task. The door to the room of the 12 princesses slammed shut, and the heavy lock clicked into place. He sat right in front of it, holding the magic cloak the old woman had given him. His heart was beating fast, and his hands were shaking a little. He whispered to himself, "I only need to stay awake until midnight. I just need to see how they escape this room." Not long after, the door opened a tiny bit. The oldest princess stepped out, looking gentle and kind. In her hand was a glass filled with light yellow juice. She smiled sweetly and said, "You must be tired. We prepared some fruit juice to help you stay awake." The young man suddenly remembered the old woman's warning. Never drink anything the princesses give you. But the princess's soft voice and her friendly eyes made him hesitate. She looked so harmless, so polite. Wanting to be respectful, he accepted the glass. He took one small sip, then another. Within minutes, his eyelids grew heavy. His body felt weak, as if the world was spinning around him. He tried to grab the cloak, tried to stand, but everything faded into darkness. That night, he slept deeply until morning. When he woke up, the 12 pairs of shoes were worn down again, just like before. His heart sank. He didn't know what to say. He understood clearly now. He had failed. And the old woman's warning was more serious than he had thought. On the second night, he promised himself he would not be tricked again. He stood straight in front of the princess's door, keeping his distance. But this time, the sixth princess appeared. She held a glass of sweet orange juice whose smell filled the whole hallway. "You look tired," she said kindly. "Just one sip. It won't hurt you." He hesitated, but he was thirsty. Very thirsty. Finally, he took a drink. And again, he fell into a deep sleep, stronger than the night before. When he opened his eyes the next morning, he felt hopeless. The shoes were ruined again. Just then, the king entered the room. His face was stern and tired. 2 nights have passed, the king said. "If you do not solve the mystery tonight, you will face the same punishment as the others." The king wasn't angry. He was disappointed. And that made the young man feel even worse. After the king left, he sat quietly, thinking about the old woman's wise eyes and the cloak in his bag. He whispered, "Tonight, I will not make the same mistake. This is my last chance." When the sun set, he prepared carefully. He stood in front of the princess's room again, heart pounding, but eyes full of determination. The final night had come, and this time, he would stay awake no matter what. The third night finally arrived. The palace was very quiet. It felt like the whole castle was holding its breath, waiting to see what would happen. The young man stood in front of the princess's room with the invisible cloak in his hand. The old woman had warned him many times. He whispered to himself again and again, "Do not drink anything they give you. Do not make the same mistake." When the clock struck 12, the door slowly opened. The youngest princess stepped out. She carried a silver tray with a glass of orange drink. She smiled softly, but her eyes were sharp, as if she was studying him. "You have been guarding all evening," she said. "Please drink this so you won't be thirsty." The young man accepted the glass politely, but this time he only nodded to thank her. He did not drink a single drop. When she went back inside and closed the door, he quickly poured the whole drink into a clay pot nearby. He knew nothing could be allowed to make him sleepy tonight. Now was the time. He put the invisible cloak over his shoulders. A cold feeling moved across his body, like a soft wind. Then he disappeared completely. When he looked down, he could not see his own hands. He was hidden from the world. He opened the princess's door very quietly. Inside, all 12 princesses were getting ready. They were talking excitedly while putting on beautiful new dresses and shiny new shoes. They looked like they were preparing for the grandest party in the whole world. The oldest princess checked the doorway and whispered, "He is asleep. We can begin." Another princess put her ear to the wall to make sure no sound came from outside. Hearing nothing, the young man quickly made loud snoring sounds from the hallway. The princesses smiled, thinking he was fast asleep again. Then the oldest princess walked to her bed. She placed her hand on the frame and clapped 3 times. Suddenly, the floor shook gently. The bed moved to the side by itself, and under it, a dark opening appeared. A secret tunnel. A long stairway led deep into the ground. Even though the old woman had told him, the young man was still amazed. He had never seen anything like it. The 12 princesses stepped down one by one, their dresses swayed behind them. The young man followed closely, careful not to touch anyone. The staircase spiraled down for so long that it felt like they were entering another world. At the bottom of the stairs, the young man gasped. In front of him was the most magical forest he had ever seen. The trees were tall and straight, and their leaves were made of shining silver. When the moonlight touched them, the whole forest looked like it was glowing. It was like stepping into a dream. The young man quickly picked a silver leaf and kept it as proof. The princesses continued walking until they reached a clear, wide river. On the surface of the water were 12 beautiful swan-shaped boats. Each boat was guided by a young prince. When the princesses stepped onto the boats, the princes bowed politely. The young man jumped onto the last boat just in time. The prince steering it frowned. "This is strange. The boat feels heavier today." But the princess beside him waved her hand and said, "You are imagining things." The boat glided smoothly over the river, carrying them to a bright, shining castle. Music filled the air. Laughter echoed through the walls. It was a lively party full of dancers in beautiful clothes. As soon as they entered the ballroom, the 12 princesses began to dance. They danced and danced without getting tired. Their new shoes scraped the floor again and again. The young man could see the shoes wearing out little by little. Now he finally understood why their shoes were ruined every morning. He watched carefully from the side of the room, remembering every detail. After a while, he started to feel very hungry. So he quietly reached out and grabbed a slice of cake from the table. The cake floated in the air. The youngest princess screamed, "Look, my cake is flying!" But the other princesses only shook their heads. "You are imagining things," they told her. The young man smiled behind his invisible cloak. It was working perfectly. The princesses danced until the sky began to lighten. Their shoes were now worn out, almost torn. Only then did they stop and return to the boats. The boats carried them back across the river, through the silver forest, up the long, twisting stairs, and finally into their room, just as if they had never left. The young man followed them all the way, holding two important pieces of evidence: a silver branch from the magic forest, and a golden cup he took from the castle. No one would be able to deny the truth now. The secret of the princess's nights was finally discovered. When the sun began to rise behind the tall castle walls, the young man walked quietly back to his own room. After 3 nights full of danger and secrets, he finally knew the truth that so many people before him could not discover. In his hands, he held a shiny golden cup and a soft silver branch. These were the clear signs of the magical world under the castle. Later that morning, when the sun was high, the king entered the young man's room, just as he had promised. The king looked serious and tired. 3 days have passed, the king said. "Will you tell me the secret now, or have you failed like all the others?" The young man bowed his head respectfully, but his voice was steady and confident. "Your Majesty," he said, "I have found the truth." Then he told the king everything he had seen: the secret doorway under the bed, the long stairs, the silver forest, the swan boats, and the bright castle where the princesses danced all night. The king's eyes grew wide with surprise. He had never believed in magic before, but the young man spoke with such detail and honesty that it was impossible to doubt him. And when the young man showed the silver branch and the golden cup, the king knew the story was real. At once the king called for his 12 daughters. The princesses walked in, looking nervous. Their shoes were still worn out from the long night of dancing. When they saw the items in the king's hands, the silver branch and the golden cup, their faces changed. They knew the truth could not be hidden anymore. The oldest princess stepped forward and bowed her head. "Father," she said softly, "it is true. We did keep this secret. We visited the magical world each night because it was fun and beautiful. We never meant to cause trouble." The king did not shout. He did not punish them harshly. Instead, he sighed deeply, full of sadness but also understanding. "My daughters," he said, "I do not blame you for wanting adventure, but a secret like this can be dangerous. I am thankful that everything is now clear." Then the king turned to the young man. "As I promised," he said, "you may choose one of my daughters to be your wife." The young man looked at the princesses. He had spent 3 nights watching them and learning about their ways. In his heart, he admired the youngest princess the most. She was gentle, kind, and honest. Even though she had been part of the secret, she always looked a little sad every time she lied to him. "Your Majesty," the young man said with respect, "I choose the youngest princess." The youngest princess blushed, but she smiled softly and nodded. She also liked him. She admired his bravery, his patience, and his kind heart, especially after he had forgiven her for tricking him on the first 2 nights. The king was pleased with their choice. A grand wedding was held in the castle. Music filled the halls, flowers decorated the walls, and the whole kingdom celebrated. The king was proud, the people were joyful, and the youngest princess was happy to marry someone brave and good. After the wedding, the secret tunnel under the bed was sealed forever, so no one could use it again. And the story of the young man and the 12 dancing princesses became one of the most loved legends in the kingdom. The tale of the 12 dancing princesses teaches us something important. Every secret will one day be revealed, and honesty is always the best choice. It also reminds us that kindness matters. Because the young man helped the old woman on the road, he received the magical cloak that allowed him to uncover the truth. His good heart led him to a chance no one else had. When we live with kindness and honesty, good things will come to us, even when we don't expect them. Thank you for listening to this story until the end. Your support gives me the motivation to share more wonderful and meaningful stories. If you enjoyed this one, don't forget to like, share, and follow, so you won't miss the next episodes. See you again in the next story.